Let's face it, as Nintendo fans, we are often left slightly disappointed and scratching our heads asking why. Where is our Super Mario Galaxy 3? Why isn't Metroid out yet? Bring back the Ice Climber, seriously, and what were you thinking of the Virtual Boy? Well, sit back as Sean Capri and Bobby Pauls do just that. That's right, this is If We Ran Nintendo. Now, cue the music, maestro.
What is up, everybody, and welcome to episode 20 of If We Ran Nintendo. I am Bobby, the Nintendo Guru, joined by the great cyclist, Sean Capri.
I'm so glad you tripped up on that just now. You've been riding my ass.
I was going to call you Lance Armstrong.
18 minutes.
I was going to call you Lance Armstrong, but I said, you know what?
Not a cheater.
You're not. Oh, that's not right. Come on.
All testicles intact.
Listen, see, you're rude. You're rude. That is disrespectful.
Does he not have only one man thing?
Stop. Come on. He's a champion. Stop.
He's not a champion. I'm pretty sure that's the whole deal.
Okay, Lance. All right, so I better call you Lance Bass.
What's wrong with that?
Okay, I guess
he's part of a very popular pop band, a boy band, and did he go to space?
Stop.
He is like me. I want to go to space.
Stop before I make you go bye. All right?
What am I supposed to do when you say stuff like this to me? I'm just going to sit here and go, yes, Bobby. What else?
Exactly.
Okay. All right.
So let's kick this show off like we do each and every episode with our shout-outs.
Geek outs.
Shout-outs. So first one I wanted to throw out there was for a guy named Monkey D. Luffy. You can find him on the Twitters at King0F the Pirates. King of the Pirates. So it seems like every 2-3 weeks I get this random DM and he tells me how much he loves the show and how good we're doing and all that, and to keep up the good work. And so I just wanted to surprise you maybe, and you're not even expecting me to give you a little shout out here, but thank you so much for listening to the show, because we sincerely appreciate it, but also just, the support, man, and sending those little messages, because it means a lot. It really does. We don't get paid to do this, and apparently Sean has to suck it up just to be here for 5 minutes with me. So it means a lot when we get these high praises and such. So come on, Mr. Mopey, what's your problem now?
I'm just letting you do your thing.
Okay.
Taking shots at me, and then if I reply, then you're like, "Oh, don't do that."
People don't want to hear you whine all day, Sean. All right.
You know what? The listeners know what's up. So you just live off in your own little world there. They know. Toby knows.
So I apologize, David Moore. I was going to give you a shout out, but I'm not going to give you the shout out now because that means I have to compliment Sean. So I apologize.
I'll give him. He's
Dave Moore. It's done. It's done.
All right.
No, seriously, David Moore.
The listeners know what's up.
Was awesome on your show. I listened because I'm behind. I was on vacation last week, so I really didn't get a chance to listen the way I wanted to. So this morning I skipped the Warp Whistle. I'll listen to that tomorrow. And I listened to
great.
I didn't get a chance to listen to it yet.
That's why I brought my new 3DS. That's why I'm like, because he talks about the new 3. Okay.
Well, he talked. Yeah, but we had an episode together where he talked about it as well. So I'm sure I
can't wait to listen to it.
It'll come up 2 weeks. But anyway, you follow David at DaySpace, and just really good. I loved his amiibo stories. They were fantastic. Everybody knows, as you can see behind me if you're watching the video, huge amiibo fan. So listening to those stories, it actually inspired me that I want to probably this week coming up do an episode with Toby and Alan where we discuss amiibo and what got us into them and all that stuff, and our favorite stories of trying to acquire amiibo and all that stuff. So I'm going to go that route. So I appreciate the job that you did on your We the Gamer Cast podcast. It was amazing as always. You do a really good job. 2 more shout outs and then we're done. Barry Dunn, Nintendo Impact Gaming, and Alan Plummer. And
yes.
You can follow Alan at Curly Supreme, and you can find You can follow Barry at Nin Impact Gaming on Twitter. So last night was SummerSlam, and I do enjoy watching WWE. I enjoy watching wrestling. And last night, while watching, myself, Barry, and Alan were involved in like a Twitter conversation during the whole thing, which was really cool because it was like I'm watching this with guys that are also big wrestling fans from around different parts of the world. And we're all just talking and having a good time. And like Alan is hilarious. Like he is so funny. And he was so upset with some stuff that was happening. Because the cool thing with watching with like real, I don't want to say real wrestling fans, like we're real and other people aren't, but like fans that are really, really into it like we are. We know the backstories behind the scenes and we keep up on that stuff. So like when you see guys like Roman Reigns, which I don't even know if you know who he is or not, but he's like,
is that Razor Ramon's
nephew? No, that's actually The Rock's cousin.
Oh, okay.
But he gets this
I thought it was being clever.
I know. He gets this like
pretty good
non-needed push because of who he is. And it's like they're jamming him down your throat and you don't want to see him. And it's like, so we're all like tweeting back and forth. And then, but not just us, like other wrestling fans are tweeting and trashing him and stuff. It was a lot of fun. So shout out to those guys. You wanted to do something. You wanted to talk. Why don't you jump into what you wanted to talk about with?
I want to talk about
Josh and Mark. Yeah.
And Josh, I want to ask you something because Josh sent me a novel of a message just before we went on, which I love.
Yeah.
Don't laugh.
I'm laughing because
I'm just describing the length. I'm just trying to paint a picture in everybody's mind of how long this message was. It wasn't a brief tweet. It was well thought out. It had a beginning, middle, and end. A really strong protagonist. Josh, of course, being the first person narrative here. So I have to ask you a question.
Yeah.
Did the United States of America, the greatest nation in the world, did you not get this bundle, the new 3DS, the non-XL, the one that comes bundled with Super Mario 3D Land with the faceplates? Do you not get this?
I thought we did. Hold on. You go ahead and talk, and I'm going to look up real quick.
So, the reason I just thought you might know off the top of your head
because I'm in this Facebook group, and it's a very small group. It's like 12 of us, and the one girl that runs it who started it. It's very exclusive. You have to actually get invited to get into it.
Be American first.
No, because we got Australians in it and stuff like that.
Oh, okay. So okay,
but it's not my group, so I don't invite people. But she has to invite you in.
I'm just busting balls.
I'm just telling you how it is. Because I don't want you to think that I wouldn't want you there. I mean, I wouldn't.
I wouldn't even. Whatever.
No, but she's always posting stuff that's like when something hits, it's up. Like for all video games. So I like being in this group because like the minute something goes up for pre-order, boom, she's got the links right to it and everything.
And that's just it. Like I feel like you would have pre-ordered this immediately. Like, do you not have interest in this? Why do you not own this yet?
Because why don't I own it? Because it's no different than the one I already have.
Well, it's not an.
I could just buy the faceplates
for a non. You don't have an XL, a new.
I have a new 3DS.
A small one.
I have a small one.
Where did you get it?
I bought it when the Animal Crossing game came out. Happy Home Designer.
Oh, I didn't realize that was not a. I thought they were all XL in the States.
No, they were originally.
Right,
and then they changed it.
Okay, so I thought this was the first non-XL one.
Okay. So there's been three now. There was when Happy Home Designer hit, we got it, right? And that came with Isabelle faceplates and like a Happy Home Designer faceplate. Then we got Pokemon Blue and Red. Or no. Alpha Sapphire and all them. But it came with Blastoise, and I want to say it came with Charizard as well, like two different faceplates, and then this was the third one that came out. But I think I'm looking and I don't see it in here. Now, is that because we didn't get it? Maybe we didn't get that one in the US. It's possible.
Well, the reason that I bring it up is because Josh was asking like how it worked for me because he thought maybe I had to import it or like maybe it came in from Japan or something like that. And I'm like, well, like, what do you mean? So I just wanted to clarify like what the situation around this thing is, because I am so glad that I own this. Like, I bought it last week. I was tweeting pictures about it. I was excited even just by the box. And then when I popped it open, like, this is a phenomenal handheld.
I think, you know, I want to say Josh is wrong because I could have sworn it was actually cheaper, because I remember you saying it to me and I was like,
That's
we're
the
getting
thing.
it for $149.
Right.
New 3.
I just popped it open and oh crap, I lost. Oh, why did I open it just now?
The new 3DS. What is that one called? Super Mario?
Super Mario 3D Land. We're gonna find this out right now. Josh, this is what this is. This is all for Josh Stapleton. Anyway, I'm really loving it, and I feel like this has unlocked basically the next amiibo for me. This whole faceplate situation could get out of hand really quickly. I love the feel. I don't even know if they all feel like this. Jules, after the show last week, I was tweeting out pictures of this and how excited I am about this thing. And he's like, check out these faceplates. And he's got one that's actually made out of felt. Did you see that?
Yeah.
Made out of felt. There's another one that's like wood paneling on it. Like it's a 1987 Plymouth Voyager or a Chrysler Caravan. I don't know.
Yeah.
Is that?
I don't believe we got this one. I don't believe we got this one. But we okay.
Like the minivan jokes.
No. I'm trying to
You're moving on. You're moving on.
I'm not moving on. That we did get the new 3DS.
Right.
We just did not get this particular one. I don't believe
that's unreal.
It just might be that it's not out yet. You know what I mean? Like, it might have just hit Canada because look at when we get stuff.
That?
It's very high, because when we get stuff, you guys get stuff. It's totally different dates. Just because we're both North America doesn't mean we get them. You know, Nintendo Canada and Nintendo America are two separate entities.
Usually it takes us longer to get it because they've got French on it.
Yes.
So you just get the English. We get French, which is. But I mean, look at this faceplate on it. It's got like all the little different. You got KK Slider here. You got the Nook Buddies. You got Samus.
So that faceplate, I can buy that in the United States.
Oh, okay.
So that faceplate's not really exclusive to anything, and that was kind of a throw-in for you guys anyway. The faceplate it came with. Me. No. I'm just saying, like, that was the additional one. That wasn't actually on the 3DS, right? You got the Mario ones that was actually on the 3DS, right?
It actually only came with the bottom piece attached.
Okay.
The top piece neither were attached.
Okay. But you had it like somewhat close to it. You know what I mean? Like it was attached. Because that came in a separate little package, right?
I should have done an unboxing.
You should have.
I didn't realize it was this special. I don't know. I was excited. Like I then I would have to set up my phone in the car because that's where I opened it. Like I'm like a 7-year-old kid when it comes to this stuff. Like I get to the store, I got my pre-order all done, and I'm like, "Hi, I'm here to pick up my pre-order." And they're like, "Oh, do you have your receipt?" I'm like, "Well, it should be on the phone number." And then they give it over, and I grab it, and he's like, "You know, it doesn't come with an AC adapter." I'm like, "I know it doesn't come with an AC adapter. What do you think this is?"
You should have said I got like 18.
If we were at Nintendo.
Okay, you should have been like, I got 18 3DSs at the house. I don't need the adapter.
I did say that. Yeah. So I grab it from the guy, and he's looking at, "Oh, this is really neat." I'm like, "I know, give it to me." So I rip it out of the guy's hand. I go run back to the car, and I'm just like tearing this thing open, but carefully, because I don't treat. I still have the box. I have it in my little weird collection that I have. And I'm there in the car opening this thing, and it's phenomenal. And I'm playing, not that you asked what I'm playing right now, but I'm playing through Super Mario 3D Land again. I'm like 4 worlds in. I love this game. I love this handheld. It feels better than I ever remember a 3DS ever feeling in my hands.
It's comfortable, right?
It feels really nice. It's a kind of hefty, actually.
Yeah.
But it's a good size. Like if I look at next to my like iPhone 6, which has an Otter case on it, it's about the same, which is kind of surprising.
Well, the other thing too is
portable.
The thing that I like is the top screen's bigger.
It's beautiful. This screen is incredible.
Nice,
I went straight to Costco after I unboxed it in my car, which again, this is so stupid that I unboxed in my car. It's not like I'm playing anything. I've got to go home and update it, but here I am opening it and all that. And then I go straight to Costco so I can get a micro SD, which by the way, 32 gigs was like $15 Vita. Are you kidding me? Because guess what I'm going to do now? I'm going to load this thing up again with non-virtual console games.
You're lying. You're so lying.
I have to look at what's available there. I know that there are a couple games that are available, but it's kind of frustrating too. Again, like this goes back to things that we would fix. Why aren't the not only do the games not carry over for like what I own, but like games that are available are just all over the map.
Yeah.
So I go on like my Wii U, what Super Nintendo games can I get? They're totally different from the ones that you can get on the Wii, and they're totally different from the ones that you can get on your new 3DS.
Well,
So
let's be fair. They are pumping out quite a bit on the new 3DS now. Like, it seems like every other week we're getting a new Super
yeah, and they
Nintendo
did that
game.
on the Wii U until a certain point, and then we jumped to
Well,
64.
Well,
Anyway.
but the one thing with this is I feel like they perfected the emulation, because I'm telling you, man, when you play a Super Nintendo game on that 3DS, it sings to you, baby.
It's funny, and
It's
I
nice.
talked about it on my show this week too. I've always heard people talk about the quality of emulation. I'm like, man, you guys have been real picky.
No.
But after playing Chrono Trigger on my Vita, like I'm starting to understand like what people are getting a little bent out of shape about, and I totally agree.
Yeah, you need to buy Chrono Trigger on the DS and then put it in that.
I had a card at one point.
That's the ultimate.
Thing.
Like, from what I understand, is that's the most perfect to the original. Is that one? Apparently, the Vita, they did some weird stuff to it.
It sucks. Like every time I hit the menu button or every time it jumps into a battle, like it's a good lag and a good delay. Well, a bad delay.
The Vita
noticeable.
The Vita is hot trash, man.
You gotta say though, like availability of titles. I can just go on almost every week, like every 3 weeks or third week of every month or something. There's a crazy flash sale. That's why I end up with these games.
On Vita.
On Vita, yeah.
My thing with Vita is the memory. The memory is so ridiculously priced. $70. I'm sorry, it cost me $80 for a 32 gig.
I know. I can't believe I paid it.
That's ridiculous. I know. I kick myself too, because I'm like, I can't believe I spent that money on that stupid memory card. Like, that's what held me off from buying a Vita for a very long time. And I feel like that's what hurt the Vita.
I mean, I feel like that's obvious. Anyway, I just wanted to bring it. I want to give a shout out to Josh Stapleton. He's a huge supporter of everything that we do.
Yeah,
absolutely. So big shout out. I wanted to give a shout out to the new 3DS because I feel like it gets a lot of shade. The whole new that's not named very well. We get it. There's not really a whole lot of exclusives for it. I get it. This is a quality little handheld.
My question to you: is that your first new 3DS that you've played?
That I've played, yeah. So we've got the new buttons on the back, the ZL, ZR.
So my question for you then is this: you have Smash?
It's in there right now, actually.
Okay. Have you messed with it on the new 3DS?
No, I was going to. I brought it with me. I was in Banff this weekend. I took it on a bit of a road trip, but it needed to update. It actually wouldn't even let me play it at all. So I'm going to play it sometime soon this week.
So you're on cartridge, so I'm not sure how. But man, let me tell you what. I had the digital version, and on the old 3DS, it took what felt like an eternity to get in and out of the game. And
I could do a test too. I could just put it in the old one. I still have it around.
But see, I had the digital version.
Oh, see, well, I think it was the same way. Like when they were just coming out with the new 3DS, that's the game that they show you. Like, look how different.
It took forever. And with that one, it's like, boom, you're right in, right out.
That's nice.
It basically had to reset the console to shut the game off. That's how. I mean, it was bad.
That's crazy.
Yeah, I like it. I like it a lot. So
I can't wait. I've had this since like last Christmas, and I've never really jumped into it too much. But I'm very excited. I'm like my energy towards the 3DS has been completely rejuvenated. I'm playing great games. I really enjoyed you guys' talk on the Geekcast this week, talking about the 5 must-own games for the various consoles and stuff like that. So I'm like, yeah, I really should want that. Except for Nintendo Land. I don't know what Nintendo Land for the Wii U.
I don't know what Toby was thinking.
Toby, I love Toby. Nintendo Land.
That was a bad choice.
This is not that good.
I called him out on it. You heard me call him out on it.
I heard it. I didn't stop listening because of the Nintendo Land suggestion.
I was like, wow. Like, what are you on, man?
Now all I want to do is play Nintendo games.
Yeah, that's the point of all this.
That's it. Like, when you just talk about it and you're like, man, this is really good.
Yeah, man.
That's what Jason Lacey told me on We the Gamercast too. It's like, I just discovered that I really like Nintendo. There's this whole, and you talked about it on your show too, about like the internet gets this idea in its head about what's this gamepad exist for, and therefore I don't get it, and therefore it's crap. Like,
yeah.
So this is our service to the world of feeding into the energy and just talking about things. Let's remind everybody that Nintendo is not the worst thing in the world.
No.
I'm so glad we live in a world where Nintendo is the one still making consoles.
Absolutely.
Sega is doing whatever.
Yeah.
It's the way
Whatever they
things.
do.
Yep.
So I
Happening
think it was
with
2 weeks ago now. We asked the community, like, do you have something you want us to talk about or whatever? And Sam Lubbs, my boy
What's up,
Sam
Sam?
Lubbs, he sent you a message. And he basically said Nintendo's had some screw ups over the years. The Virtual Boy, Earthbound's advertising, not developing games we'd like to see, such as a new F-Zero, and in my opinion, the Wii U as a whole. That's what popped into my head, though I'm sure I've missed a few you could discuss. What would you have done to stop these plans from going downhill, i.e. give Earthbound a new slogan, make the Virtual Boy more comfortable and colorful? How would you fix Nintendo's fails? So this is like a massive topic, obviously, and because, they have had some failures, and let's start with...
You can make a topic just by listing them, not let alone like fixing them. You could just have it like, we're talking about a few decades worth of gaming company being around.
Okay,
so there's some ups and some downs.
So what are some that you feel like they messed up on? And
so, well, the first one they actually did a really nice job of fixing, and I feel like you just kind of apply this across the board, where they launched the 3DS at a crazy price point.
Yep.
6 months later, they dropped the price substantially, and they did it really, like, this is very uncharacteristic, I feel, of really any company being this forward in admitting fault, where they dropped the price and they didn't want to burn everybody who had just jumped on board within the first 6 months. And so they introduced this ambassador program.
That, to me, you know what, and for Nintendo as well, to me, that was an Iwata move. That was something that Mr. Iwata did. That, to me, just speaks volumes to where his head was, that he realized, like, we screwed up. We messed up. Because not only did he do that, when the 3DS was taking a beating, he took a pay cut. Because he realized, like, hey, I'm messing up. I don't deserve all this money. I'm taking a pay cut. The Wii U's floundering. The 3DS is floundering. Basically, with that console, and I feel like that's, I feel like the Wii U and the 3DS both had a similar problem. And
I feel like people were waiting for that to happen with the Wii U.
Yeah.
Like, you're kind of waiting for a price drop. People were talking about taking out the gamepad or something. And it's sort of like this inconsistency that's really, I believe, is what frustrates a lot of fans. But that the way that they handled the 3DS situation, it showed like a personality to Nintendo that we don't really always get. We sometimes see them, especially lately. You're talking about fan creations that are getting taken down, or Nintendo Power archives up on the internet that have to get taken down. So it seems like, and it feels and looks like Nintendo is more of like this corporate entity, and it has to act, it's a little bit robotic and a little soulless. But when they do things like, they always apologize whenever a game is delayed. Please understand is a thing. There's a whole bunch of examples of Nintendo being more of a person, and it's part of that sort of Japanese culture built into their business that I wish that they would tap into more of. That they feel obligated to deliver. I don't even want to say the word greatness, because that seems to belong to another Japanese gaming company, but just to deliver what we've come to expect and deliver really good times with Nintendo. I want more of that from them. So basically, the ambassador program is a really good example, but the theme behind it is that it seemed like it was a friend reaching out to you and just apologizing from the heart. But speaking to your wallet in a way.
I want to touch on something real quick. I did a video, I think it was last week, week before, about the Nintendo Power stuff. I actually reached out to you before I did it because I was in a bad place. I was pissed. I really was. I was pissed off about it. And then today, I'm reading in the Nintendo voice chat group, and I was getting into it a little bit with Marley. I'm friends with Marley. I appreciate his friendship. I appreciate his outlook on things, but I just disagree with where he was coming from. And a lot of that is Nintendo fans feel like because other companies don't protect their IP as strongly as Nintendo does, that they're old-timey and they're flawed in their thinking. If I ran Nintendo, how would I handle IPs? Like the guys making Metroid 2, a remake of Metroid 2, and this new Pokemon game. Now, the Pokemon game, you can point your fingers at Nintendo all you want. That's not Nintendo. That's Pokemon Company going after them and getting that shut down and all that stuff. That's not Nintendo. Like, Nintendo owns part stake, but Pokemon Company runs how they want to run. That's nothing to do with Nintendo. I'm sure they follow suit of a lot of stuff that Nintendo has shown. But if it's me and I'm running Nintendo, I'm telling my lawyers, take down everything that comes up. And the reason being is this. People look at it and go, oh, well, it's free. How's it going to hurt? Okay, so they put up this free remake, colorized version of Metroid 2, and then later on, it stops us from doing it if we decide one day to do it, because people have this free version. They're not going to buy our version. And if someone does want to play that one, it's the 30th anniversary of Metroid, if someone wants to play it, it's going to stop them from buying ours because they're going to go get that one for free. My thing is this. What I would do is I would tell my law firm and my lawyers to shut everything down, because you need to be consistent across the board. Because the minute you don't take something down, the minute you start to pick and choose what you're going to take down, then the problem becomes when you do go, something serious happens and you have to take it down, now you have a battle. Because the judges are going to look and go, well, why are you shutting this one down, but you didn't shut the rest of the stuff down? And that's Nintendo's defense, and it's been their defense all along. I agree with their defense. But
I agree too. Sorry.
But what I would do is I would have a separate team that would – the answer would be when the law firm shuts down a program or something that somebody's doing, they immediately take that information, that content, and shift it to the other team. Now, the other team diagnoses it and looks at it and goes, would this work? Is this something we can do? How do we do it? And, example, the Nintendo Powers that got pulled off. I would have gone to them and go, look, we appreciate the archiving system you did. Top notch. Thank you very much. You're going to come to work for us, and you're going to build it on our website, and you're going to archive it for us. This Metroid 2, guys, you're doing a great job. Tell you what, come to work for us, and we're going to put it. So I would shut everything down, but at the same time, I would look at things and go, is this good? We're going to hire them, or we're going to bring them on board, or we're just going to take that idea and do it ourselves. You know what I mean? Because what I would do is say, analyze the internet's reaction. Like, what are the people saying? Like, when that came out, obviously for Nintendo and the lawyers to hear about the Nintendo Power stuff going up, wholeheartedly, it's got to have some type of buzz for it to reach Nintendo, and then they go, okay, that's got to come down. So for me, I feel like, yes, take it down, but your plan B is you have a team that analyzes everything and goes, this we want to do, this, let's talk to these guys, maybe we'll hire them. Like right now, you get the Mother 4 translation up and go, not translation. There's a group of kids that are making Mother 4, which is actually Earthbound, for those that don't know. So what I would do is I would look at it and go, this is a good game. Why don't we hire these kids, come in, throw more people at it to help them develop it, and get it up and get it done. They've done most of the work for us. We don't have Mother 3 yet because it's never been translated into English. There's a full translation that people did for free. You get it on the internet and do it. I actually have a cartridge. I bought the cartridge, and just so you know, like, I'm sitting here and I'm saying, like, oh, people are going to buy this and they're not going to buy stuff from Nintendo. I bought it because Nintendo didn't put it out. And then I came home and bought Earthbound on my second Wii U because I felt guilty of not giving them money for it. I'm messed up. I know this, and that's fine. But that's what I feel like. I feel like in those situations, that's where you look at it and you go, hey, you know what? There's obviously a public outcry for this. So let's make it happen. How do we make it happen? I think that's a big issue that Nintendo has that needs to be addressed. And that's one thing that I would address.
See, and I think I agree. Like that all sounds really great. To go way back to the original point, I think really what people need is kind of like a good side of the story, or at least some sort of open explanation whenever something bad like this happens. So whenever a copyright is being enforced, they need to come out and say, like, we have to do this so that we can continue to protect all, like we can't just pick and choose. So like that open conversation, I feel like that's not a complicated message. People would fully understand it. So I think that that would do really well to balance the harshness of pulling all these things down. I think with in the case of Earthbound, there's probably something else going on here in terms of license or ownership over the IP.
Well, I think
whatever it is.
Itoy, the guy that wrote it originally, is he has some stake in this. So they really can't do anything unless he gives the approvals.
Right.
And he's kind of like a recluse. And he does.
So I mean, it doesn't matter if, like, in some cases, like that all sounds really great, but it doesn't matter if you bring these people in there. The same thing happened with GoldenEye. A lot of people wanted GoldenEye to come back to Nintendo in some way or another. There was remakes happening. There's different things, and even just recently, there's a remake of the multiplayer going on in the Source engine. I'm sure that'll get pulled sometime soon. But at the end of the day, there's licenses and there's ownership over this stuff that basically halt any goodwill that any company wants to put out there. So I just want to like balance out the idea of like, yes, bring them all in, and there's reasons. Probably.
But I'm not saying bring them in. What I'm saying is you take them you have a team that analyzes it and looks at it and goes, man, these guys are doing this GoldenEye thing, and we should bring them in. But we don't own it. I know, but then you go, but we don't own the license of GoldenEye. It's going to cost this much money to do it. Should we do it? No, scratch, done. And then be done with it. But there's some things that you might be able to do where you go, let's just see if this will work. And talk to
I feel like the internet is too finicky of a place to even start to toy with the idea of letting it even remotely determine part of your strategy, which is why this show is so hilarious. Because it's just like, that's what we are doing here.
Yeah.
But the internet is so flaky, and we can't make up our mind on what we want. And there's no consensus. There's no way of really showing, how many people out of the market share, who's saying this or who's saying that. It's too difficult to say, like, what's actually going to end up being a strong move. So that's why Nintendo has always done its own thing. It's done its own path. It doesn't get strayed by the internet. And for better or for worse, that's just the way that it is. I feel like overall, it really, that's it being a conservative Japanese company. It's just not giving into, this is exciting, let's go and do that. Or that's exciting, let's do that. It's just, we've got our vision and we're going to do what it takes to go after that. But as soon as you start looking at what's exciting on the internet, you're lost. And I don't really think that would be a good strategy. And I'm not just doing it to be contrarian to you.
Yeah.
I think it's too much. I think there's too many shiny balls out there to actually make it sustainable. Now, do I want another Metroid? Yeah, but it'll come. And it won't be
I'm not worried about that.
Making it.
That part I'm not worried about. But I just look at, like, sometimes there's things that are coming out that are being done on the internet, and you go, hey, that's not a bad. I'm just using that as the example.
For sure.
You know what I mean? Like, I'm not saying like this game was good because I didn't see it and I don't know. So I had no interest in it. I didn't care. I heard about it and I was like, it's going to get yanked. I don't know why anybody's even putting any whatever into it. It's going to get yanked. I look at like the Nintendo Power thing, and I feel like, you know, that needs to be up. Whether Nintendo wants to let these guys do it for free, or they want to charge $5 a year or whatever, and I let people go through and look at all the issues and stuff. Like, I think it needs to be up. I think it's a part of history. I think it needs to be done right because it celebrates history. It celebrates. I mean, you're looking at a guy that goes out and buys issues still. Like, I went out and bought this week. You know what I mean? Like, I found it at a retro shop, and I was like, I got to buy this. I got to have it. You know what I mean? And it's because to me, it's a part of history. It's a part of, like, the past of Nintendo. So you want to celebrate it, you know? But to dip back into, like, basically what Sam's asking us, like you said, there's a lot of stuff where they drop the ball on, and there's a lot of successes, you know, and I can't remember where I said it exactly, but Nintendo to me is a great home run hitter, and it's a great power hitter. It's when you look at all over the history of time, like Mark McGwire, Sammy Sosa, Babe Ruth, Barry Bonds, all these guys, like they're all power hitters. They all hit a lot of home runs.
Are you saying that Nintendo is pumped up on steroids?
Would you stop? Babe Ruth never did steroids.
Not that we know about.
Oh, please. He drank a lot of beer. That's about it.
He drank a lot of Coca-Cola, and we know how they made that back in the day.
Would you stop? So, but my idea behind that is if you follow baseball at any point of your life and you watched these great power hitters over the course of time, yes, they hit a lot of home runs, but they struck out just as much as they hit home runs. Mm-hmm. They didn't get singles and doubles. It was either a home run or a strikeout, and that's just basically what they did most of the time. And I feel like that's what Nintendo is. Nintendo is, they'll get on these tears where they're just knocking everything out the park, and then they get on these little slumps where they can't do anything right. And then they get on these tears again, and they start crushing everything. And I feel like you look at the life of the Wii U, and that's kind of like the beginning, the first year or so, they were striking out a lot. They weren't doing a lot. You hit them middle years, and they were just crushing everything. Everything was a 90 on the Metacritic. They couldn't doing anything wrong. Then they started putting out games with like Animal Crossing, and it was just like, ooh, what are you doing? And they started to teeter a little bit. I feel like, so knowing that, like, I don't expect everything to be perfect that they do. I know they're going to have some hiccups. They're going to make some mistakes. I feel like with the Virtual Boy, there's no fixing that. That thing.
I feel the same thing.
Yeah, I don't feel like that should have never come out. Never should have seen the light of day.
Okay, I'm the opposite. I feel like we won't change anything about it, but you let it be what it is. And I feel like that's the thing about all of Nintendo's things. They're a wealthy enough company that they can make these mistakes and keep moving. And they're more of a serendipitous type of company where like everything happens for a reason. It's more just let's learn from ourselves. And I really think the NX is going to be like just a true manifestation of what the dream for the Wii U was. It's just, I feel like we're in for something really phenomenal, transformative. Yeah. But it's because the Wii U sucked, and just if you change that, then you don't know what's coming next.
Well, my thing is this with the Virtual Boy, okay, and I want to point at this one in particular because I feel like this. I feel like, okay, yes, history, but if I was in that time and I was looking at it, the minute that thing started giving people headaches, never should have hit the light of day. And that should have been the tip-off. The minute you put it in front of people and they started getting headaches, they should have shut it down and just said, either we need to fine-tune this and make it better or don't do it at all. And that's where I feel like the
sensitivity to that was not where it is now. Like now we see a gadget or whatever it is, some sort of electronic, and if there's something even slightly off, we throw it away. Yeah. This isn't ready for me yet. But back then, playing Game Boy in the dark wasn't the best. Yeah. And so like with that in mind, if like what doesn't work, great, so it doesn't happen. Like I don't necessarily agree with that.
Well, and at that time, Nintendo did no wrong. What I mean? Like everything they were doing.
It was jumping off the Game Boy name, which was obviously huge.
When you look at it and you look at like everybody was like, oh, you got the NES. Sega has the Genesis. They're double your power. Why are you not doing it? And they didn't want to. They didn't want to make a Super Nintendo. They finally made a Super Nintendo because they were getting pressured, And if they had their way, we probably would never have been in the 16-bit era for another 10 years. They were having so much success with the Nintendo, the original Nintendo. They didn't want to dip into the Super Nintendo. So I think that like when you looked at them and you looked at all the success they had and how powerful they were, they got cocky. And that's where a lot of their mistakes come from. A desperate Nintendo is a better Nintendo for us. So when they're kind of on the ropes, it's better for us as a consumer. When they're like got their chest puffed out, it's horrible for us because that's when they start making mistakes and they start doing stuff because they get cocky. With Earthbound, that's tough because. Again, yes, it definitely should have come out. I don't disagree. But my issue with Earthbound is this. Because of the way the launch went so bad, it's actually stopped them from giving us Mother 3. Because they don't feel – and it blows me away, especially now, why they wouldn't put it out. Knowing that, like they put Lucas in
Smash.
in Smash
Mm-hmm.
because the outcry. He wasn't in Smash 4. He was in Brawl, and the outcry when he wasn't included in 4, they actually did. He was the first DLC character because they were like one of the first DLC characters. They were like, we got to have him, so they did him. I feel like if the people pressured you so much to put him in Smash, you have to know that people want these games. And you got to. I don't understand why it hasn't been translated yet and put out yet. Now,
and all that makes me just, and it's not like this isn't news to me, but that now that you bring it up, I almost have to take back what I was saying before about ownership of the IP, because like they obviously have something there.
Yeah,
that they can bring the character forward, or there's some sort of special arrangement, and maybe that's all they can get. But anyway, I just wanted to. I feel like people will be screaming at like, "Whoa!"
Well, and so for my thing is like the mishandling of Earthbound has hurt the future of that franchise in terms of like it's held us from getting Earthbound 2, Mother 3 being brought to the United States. Now, how would I have changed it if I was back then? I probably would have not released it on the Super Nintendo. I probably would have pumped the brakes a little bit, pushed it off on the Nintendo 64 because it came at the end of the life cycle. And
that is so a Super Nintendo game, though. Like, that would just be... I think that's like completely out of place on a 64?
I don't think so, because I think they could have kept the graphics essentially the same, maybe pumped them up a little bit.
It just wouldn't have been, like, it wouldn't have been acceptable back then. Like, remember there was
I don't think so. I disagree with that.
Time where, like, if your game was 2D, like, that is so old. That's not... Everything had to be 3D. Things were being shoehorned into the 3D perspective, even though they didn't have anything... Like, no reason to be. And we've since seen a lot of those franchises come back as 2D, like kind of go back to their homes.
Or they could have just held it for the Game Boy Advance. Because that's what they did with Mother 3.
The handheld.
Okay. So I'll give you a little history lesson here. So Earthbound comes out on the Super Nintendo. Doesn't do very well. But they're going to make Mother 3 Earthbound 2 on the Nintendo 64. But they're going the way you're saying, 3D. And they're having issues. Like, you can actually see, if you go on YouTube, they showed footage of the game at Space World, Tokyo Game Show. But you could go on YouTube and look it up, Mother 3 for the Nintendo 64, and you see, like, 3D sprites and all that polygons and all that nonsense.
That's the way it went back then.
And they couldn't get it going, and it shut the game down. Just didn't work. So then they shut it down, but they still have the story, and they have the way they want to go with it. Iwata, Miyamoto, and Itoi all got together, and they made it for the GBA. But it only came out in Japan. So I feel like if they would have just pumped the brakes a little bit and just said, okay, this isn't going to – it's coming out too late on the Super Nintendo. We can't push it out. The other problem was, which I think hurt it a little bit, was they packed it in with a strategy guide, which jacked the price way up on it. And if they wouldn't have done that, it could have gotten it in more people's hands. We were hitting the point of time where cartridges were going for a lot of money, $70, $80. I think I paid, when I was a kid, I want to say I paid $80, almost $90 for Earthbound. Part was because it came with a strategy guide. The other part was to have a game, a cartridge-based game with a memory chips built inside of it, was expensive back then. So I feel like just timing was wrong. I feel like
it came with a guide, of course, because we were too stupid to figure out the game.
Well, no, I don't think that.
It was for the North American audience who couldn't figure this game out.
No,
so
I see. Here's the thing. People also forget this too. Role-playing games were still kind of new to North America.
Exactly.
So what I feel like the strategy guide was a way to help. But I don't feel like they were viewing it as people were too stupid. I felt like what they were trying to do was, because this game was more Americanized. You know, like you named characters. But like it was most games at that point, like the Final Fantasies and the Chrono Triggers, it was set in it was set in fantasy. This was set in your like backyard, you know, and like you pick your favorite food, pizza or comic books and all that stuff. And because it would ask you like, what's your favorite thing in the world? And you would say like comic books or video game system or whatever. And what's your favorite food to eat? And you would say pizza or hamburgers or whatever. And it would base those answers, it would implement them into the game. I think Nintendo felt like this was the game that was going to kind of like bring RPGs into the American homes and make them fall in love with it. And I felt like they did the strategy guide because people, they were hoping that a lot more people would buy this one because of the premise for it.
Yeah, they did a lot of assuming with that one, I think.
Yeah.
And I don't know if we want to keep going on this. I would say actually if I was to change anything about the Earthbound series and Mother and everything, figure out the naming convention. Make it the same. The fact that we were always having to deal with, I mean, there's no control over the Final Fantasy series. That is what it is. But with Earthbound and Mother, I mean, just one name to simplify things for people who aren't really like into it. Like, just make it easy. Like, it's so stupid that we even have to do that translation. Like,
you know what, man? I'm with you on that. And that was forever. Like,
I feel like nobody wants to really say that because it's not cool. It's like, it's cooler to know what each one of them is. It's better to like, oh, I know what this one really is. So you don't really hear people talk about the fact that that's confusing actually hurt the game, but it had to have.
Yeah. Yeah. And the weird thing too is this. Now, in those times too, you don't have the internet, so you don't necessarily have that miscommunication part of it. Like, I'll be honest with you. I was playing Final Fantasy and I didn't know for a while that there was a totally different numbering system in Japan. You know, it wasn't prevalent. We didn't know that stuff, you know? Like, you heard grumblings, like somebody stumbled upon it and grumbled about it, and then we were like, no, really? What do you mean it's a 6?
Yeah, see, I wasn't even into it, and I definitely knew that. And I was so far outside of the Final Fantasy world that I still knew that the numbers were all messed up.
But then the other thing, like Mega Man, where Capcom in Japan, it was Rockman. And in the United States, it was Mega Man. And that's not something that came out right away. Like, that was something that people figured out as time. Like, eventually they let it out, you know? And so I don't understand that part of it. Like, what's the big deal if somebody's named Rockman? Like, that's a cool name. Has nothing to do, you know what I mean? Like, it's not a stupid name. And I feel like, why are you changing stuff like that? Like, same thing with, like you said, Mother. Like, well, part of it is licensing.
For me, it's the fact that the numbers don't line up. I understand that, like, maybe the translation of the word doesn't work.
That makes sense for me. Okay, so, and I think that was the other reason why they changed
Zombies and Zombies Ate My Neighbors or whatever that one was. Like, there's two different, or Biohazard and Resident Evil.
Mother 1 was so bad, and they were having a lot of technical issues with it, that they skipped that coming over here, and they went right to Mother 2. Because there's this, and I think I've told you the story before, but where Iwata basically went to Itoy, and he was working for HAL Laboratories at the time, and they needed help getting Mother 2 made. So Iwata looks at the code and goes, we can scrap this all, and I could start fresh, and it's going to take you 3 years for me to get this game out. Or I could fix the code that you already have in the game, and it's going to take 5 years for the game to come out. And Itoy trusted Iwata and said, okay, go from scratch. And he did. He went from scratch, and to his word, it took 3 years to write the code to go up. So with the first game, it was a mess, and Iwata didn't work on the first game. So the second game made sense why that came out here first, because the first game is bad. It's bad. The second game is a lot like the first game, a lot of similarities to the two. Mother 3 is the one that takes a totally different direction, you know, compared to. But the other thing too is, like, again, licensing is a part of the reasoning too, because the reason why they changed it to Earthbound in the United States is it's based off the John Lennon song Mother. And in Japan, they could get away with that. But in the United States, they probably would have got sued and shut down.
Totally. Yeah, no, I get words can be different, but like the numbering was anyway.
Well, the numbering was different because they skipped the first game and went to the second. So that's why.
Fine.
So that's why they went that route. But yeah, whatever.
It's just a game that you don't get here, so you just get everybody's on number 2. Then it's not a big deal.
I think ultimately. Oh, so you're saying they should have just called it Earthbound too?
Yeah.
Yeah, and then you're kind of like Goonies 2. Remember that on the NES?
Yeah.
We got Goonies 2, and I'm sitting there thinking, like, is this a sequel to the movie? Okay, no big deal. And here there's a Goonies that was on the NES in Japan. I didn't even know about it years later.
And look how great that turned out.
Yeah. I like Goonies 2. That was a good game.
No, it's fine.
Yeah. I think ultimately to answer Sam's question is, and I'm kind of in agreement with what you said. Like, look, Nintendo's made some mistakes, and you can fix some of the mistakes. But and that's kind of what we do when we do a lot of the questions. But I feel like the examples that are being given, like I really don't want to touch the Wii U now. We've touched it numerous times, and I think everybody kind of knows the point. Like maybe in a couple of years, if we're still around, we could go back to the Wii U and look at it again. But I feel like with the Virtual Boy, I just feel like either you don't put it out because of the issues that were going on, or you do put it out. I don't feel like anything really can fix Earthbound in terms of advertising, because I really don't think the advertising was too bad with it, or if they would have given it a new slogan or anything. And I'm not a marketing guy, so I don't know what kind of slogan you give it. I just feel like they rushed it to get it out, but it was coming out at the end of the Super Nintendo life cycle, and that kind of hurt it, in my opinion.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know exactly the time. I feel like I should know this in my brain. It's escaping me at the minute, but Pokemon came late in the Game Boy cycle too. But I mean it's hard to compare anything to Pokemon.
But you know what, man?
So massive, but it's not like things.
But they also didn't have an Earthbound cartoon and all that stuff. Like they pushed a million things with that. And not only that, like so it was at the end of the Game Boy life cycle. It was at the end of the Game Boy life cycle, but you had Game Boy Color right behind it.
Yeah.
So was it really at the end of the life cycle? No, because they just moved to a new iteration.
Sure. Yeah.
I think that to make this work, they probably should have just, and it's hard to say because I don't know the dates or whatever, but it probably should have just held off on it and maybe waited and then hit, because they could have easily put Earthbound and Earthbound 2 on the Game Boy Advance. I feel like that was the better move to put it. Looking back now, I would have put all RPGs on mobile. You don't realize how awesome it is to have that RPG with you at all times. Mm-hmm. And I know some people don't like that, but look, I was a huge RPG fan as a kid. Final Fantasy, Chrono Trigger, Secret of Mana, everything that came down the pipe, I bought. And for me, if I would have had the opportunity to play them on a portable where I could play them all the time, no matter where I am.
Sneak them into bed. Because you only have like maybe an hour or two in front of the TV, or your parents will shut it off. But you go to bed and you've got your Game Boy there. Like, that's what I'm talking about.
Oh, absolutely, man. And that's where, because like I look at now, like I'm playing Pokemon, and the only reason I'm playing as much as I am is because I could jump on my lunch break at work or whatever. Like, I've started playing Xenoblade Chronicles last week. I haven't touched it this week. Mm-hmm. I mean, it's only one day in, but like I know I'm not going to touch it tonight. Probably won't touch it tomorrow night. Probably won't hit Wednesday because I have to edit and all that stuff. So probably won't hit it till like Thursday, maybe Friday. Then it's like, do I want to play that or I want to play something else? And then by that time, but when you're a kid, you have a lot more free time and you have that ability. But like, I look at it and go, man, if I could just have all this stuff portable, it would have been so much better. Like, take your Game Boy to school, you got lunch break, pop it open, start playing again. That would have been, ultimately the answer. But I feel like Earthbound should have hit the Game Boy Advance. That's the way I would have done. So, is there anything else that you felt like we should discuss in terms of like a big mistake that they made?
A big mistake isn't necessarily what they did. It's what they didn't do. And by letting Rare go to Microsoft, I feel like was just such a huge mistake. I mean, we ended up getting new Donkey Kong games. That was fine.
Yeah.
But ultimately, I feel like Rare was in better hands making Nintendo games. A Nintendo Rare was better than a Microsoft Rare overall. And I love Microsoft. I love my Xbox. But I can't think of a thing where I'm like, thank God Rare is on
Yeah.
Like even Rare Replay felt more like a Nintendo collection to me.
Oh,
that
absolutely it was. Absolutely it was. Because what games on that collection actually were on the Xbox?
Yeah, basically anything after Perfect Dark 0.
Yeah.
And that's it.
Yeah.
So I mean, like, not even the earlier of the games. I'm not even sure. A lot of them weren't even on NES. It's not. That's not what I mean by like there's that connection. But we all came to know Rare as a Nintendo company.
Mm-hmm.
Rare Replay introduced us to new games that maybe a few of like the ultra hardcore knew about, but ultimately, like, we really knew them as a Nintendo company. So and this is really to do with them managing their partners, the people who they worked intimately with. The fact that it even got to a point where there was an opportunity for Rare to go somewhere else, I think was a mistake. And so, but again, hindsight 2020, I totally get that. But I feel like Rare had a lot of value for Nintendo. And even especially now when people are asking for certain things to come back, they left with Rare.
Yeah.
So a lot of people, a lot of formative years playing GoldenEye obviously is the big one. It's not going to happen.
See, I think the problem, and again, this is something that was I think Nintendo made the right move. And the reason why I say that is
by letting them go.
Well, obviously they should have kept them. But the problem is that Microsoft didn't do their homework. They thought that Rare owned Donkey Kong. They didn't know that Nintendo owned Donkey Kong.
I know you said that, but I feel like you need to cite your sources on this.
Phil Spencer is my source. There's an article where I'll look it up and I'll find it. But when they originally bought that, they thought Rare owned Donkey Kong because they had just done Donkey Kong Country a bunch of times. They didn't. The early execs didn't do their homework. They didn't pay attention to what it was.
We need to look at this off. I know that's what you said. I know.
I'm telling you, I've read it on numerous occasions.
Well, maybe we're reading the same thing, but in different, because I know that they liked that and they wanted something like Diddy Kong Racing.
But anyway, they over-evaluated the company. They swooped in at the last minute. Nintendo worked the deal. They were ready to go. And then Microsoft comes in the last minute with like a triple the figure. Like, you look at the numbers that Nintendo offered them and what Microsoft offered. Microsoft like tripled Nintendo's offer. And I think Nintendo was offering I want to say Nintendo was offering like $20 million at the time, maybe more. And they came in with a huge number and like blew Nintendo out of the water. And I think Nintendo looked at it and was like, they're not worth that. Like, why in the world are they offering? And Nintendo was just like, we don't feel like your company's worth all that. Because at the end of the day, the other thing too is like Nintendo was doing a lot of the work. Like, example, Donkey Kong Country comes out. Or they're working on Donkey Kong Country. And they send the samples of the game back to Nintendo Japan. And they hate it. They absolutely hate it. And they send Miyamoto out to Rare to work with them to put his touches on it. So all the little quirky things that Donkey Kong does that gives him life and character was all from Miyamoto. Like, like when you don't move and he starts like doing things to wake you up, or when you're done the level and he's like jumping and he's waving his hands and stuff. That's all stuff Miyamoto put in and said, like, do this. He gave Donkey Kong life and character, So I think Nintendo felt like, yeah, they do good games, but they have to be babysat most of the time. And there's stories of Miyamoto not respecting them at all and didn't feel like they were very good at all. So I think that when you look at the big picture, they let them go for reasons that for us, we go, oh my God. But it's like one of those things like, like I work with you every week and we do this podcast every week. And someone else might go like, I need to grab that Sean Capri because he's a great asset to a podcast. And I would just be like, well, you can go because I know what you bring to the table and it's not very much. So it's I'm only kidding. I love you, Sean. You knew it was coming. I had to. No.
Let's see how good this podcast is without me for the rest of the show then.
Joey Ferris, I need you. No, honestly, all jokes aside, it's similar to that though. Like in terms of like if you and I work together every week.
That's a good point though.
You know what I mean?
Yeah,
and we
somebody
know,
swoops in and it just
and I know what we bring to the table. Like what you offer, I know what I offer, and vice versa. And then someone else starts like looking and going like, That's all Sean. Bobby doesn't do anything. That's all Sean. And then they come in and they pluck you out, and I'm sitting there going like, well, shit, I bring all this stuff. Why did they take me too? You know what I mean? Like that type of aspect. And then I'm like, and then you come to me and go, you sure you don't want to keep me? And I'm like, no, I know, you know what I'm saying? And then I let you go. People might look at it and go, well, why the heck did he let Sean go? And then I'm, so what Nintendo sees is one thing, and what Microsoft, and it's obvious because look at it. Like, if Rare was this huge home run hitter, why didn't they make more games? And people can point their fingers at Microsoft and go, it's their fault. Is it really? Is it really? Because they did put out some games, they just weren't that good. So it's almost like they lost that magic.
You have to pair it up with really good IP, and of course, we knew that they went over to work with Microsoft on Kinect stuff and avatars, and basically Nintendo. Those were very Nintendo-esque strategies. The fact that your body was a controller was kind of an extension of the Wii remote. It's the idea of like, let's expand beyond the handheld controller and let's go do something else. The avatars, there were Mii ripoffs. Yeah, like it was kind of like Nintendo, but nobody does Nintendo like Nintendo, and that's the whole reason we do this show about Nintendo and not anybody
Well, let
else.
me ask you a question. So when you look at it, right, and you look at the big picture and you look at what they have and what they brought to the table and all that stuff, they're coming out with a new game, right? They announced it last E3. They showed something this E3. Are you excited for that game?
I'm not, but this really is. It feels more like Rare is stretching their legs a little bit. It seems like they've got a little bit more of their creative control back. It doesn't really feel like Microsoft is pushing this. It seems like this is a game that Rare wants to make. But for the first time in 11 years, I guess, where like Rare was really seemed like under the control of Microsoft to push an agenda with the whole Kinect. So I'm excited to see what happens. It's probably not for me.
Yeah.
But just to look back, Microsoft paid $375 million for Rare.
And
that's a lot.
But does it say what Nintendo offered them or no?
No, I didn't want to.
I know that
too much.
Maybe I want to say Nintendo offered $50 million. Maybe max would be $100 million, if I'm not mistaken. But I know they came in and like blew Nintendo's offer way out of the water. So much so that people were. I remember at the time people going like, "What? They offered that much money?" And then it actually got to the point where people were looking at Nintendo like, "Why wouldn't you offer that much?" But Nintendo Japan, I think, just looked at it and goes, "They're just not, worth it." And I think the thing that
when Rare was going out of business. Like that's why they were up for sale.
Oh yeah, they were done, man.
To their eardrums. So
which
is Nintendo would have known that, so they would have thrown out a valuation based on that. Nintendo comes Microsoft comes over the top and just goes like, "Yoink, you're ours."
Yeah.
So anyway, talking about mistakes that I would have fixed, I would have found a way. But I mean, looking at $375 million, this is more just of a thought exercise, just looking at some of the things that Nintendo seemingly does. Maybe the better decision was to just not pony up $376 million.
Yeah, I think, because I'll be honest with you, I think that Nintendo got the better end of the stick by letting them go because
you just have Retro do your Donkey Kong.
Because Retro was working with Rare.
Yeah.
And when they left, Retro became the new Rare. And you look at the games that Retro's, let's look at the history, okay? You look at what Retro's done and you look at what Rare's done. And Retro has done more Magic since Rare left than Rare has done since they left. You look at 3 Metroid Prime games. You look at 2 Donkey Kong Country games. I look at those Donkey Kong Country games. I know you're not a huge fan of them, but I'll tell you what, they're better than the Donkey Kong Country games we got.
I gotta stop. Like, let's get a handle on this Donkey Kong Country. Look at this. I'm even wearing a Donkey Kong shirt. I love Donkey Kong.
Listen, if I don't call you out on it, Jacob's going to be upset with me.
I know you guys are perpetuating this bull.
You said you would ax him.
Of course, now, and we said the same about Kirby. So just Kirby's
a different story. Kirby's a different story that I agree with. I don't agree with axing Donkey Kong, and it crushed a lot of people when you said that.
Donkey Kong Land is one of my favorite Game Boy games of all time.
Yeah, well, you also said you would ax him, so
I would ax him.
You can't take that back. Easy. No, but seriously, like I look at Donkey Kong Country Returns. I look at Donkey Kong Country Tropical Freeze. I get why. Look at, I'm making light of it, but the reason why you said you axed it because it's too much back to back. Where if there was space between them, you probably wouldn't have felt so much. But it felt like it was being crammed down your throat because you got one game and then right behind another game. I wonder
what a 3D Donkey Kong would be like.
Man, could you imagine?
Like a Banjo-Kazooie kind of like a
I've heard
kind of thing. Because that's really where it was going. You're just cramming all these things to collect in a 2D space. It felt like it wanted to go 3D, but it was still limited to that 2-dimensional space. And then you just have all these different things to go back and collect. And that's really where I lose sight of, like maybe even Donkey Kong lose sight of what its identity was.
I did hear a rumor today. I'm just going to throw this out there and we're going to wrap up. That Retro is actually working on a new F-Zero game. That's what
I don't know how to feel about it.
I don't know, but they do their magic when they touch these old classics. I don't know, but I've also heard that they're doing a brand new IP, so I don't know. But
I want something. I want another Splatoon. I want something new.
That is all.
That was the worst. That is all ever.
That is all.
Yes.
Thank you guys for listening to us on iTunes, SoundCloud, Stitcher, Google Play, watching us on YouTube. Follow my buddy here, Sean, at Sean Like Connery, Capri Like the Pants on the Twitters. Follow me, Instagram, Twitter, at Nintendo Gurus.
You got to say it right. You say my name wrong.
What do I say wrong?
You have to say the whole thing first. You
Follow
Sean Capri.
Sean Capri. Sean Like Connery, Capri Like the Pants. There you go.
See, I wish I would have nipped that in the bud a long time ago. Then we don't have to have this awkward.
Peace out, Cub Scout.
ABZ you later, y'all. Bye-bye. Yahoo!
Yes.
You didn't do the thing. You didn't play the sound.
That's something special coming for later. That's not for now. So, all right, you ready to kick this off?
Yeah, but I gotta show you my shirt.
Say something.
You gotta look at my shirt, Bobby. This is actually really good, maybe for the echo that I've been getting in my room. If I just hold my shirt in front, I don't know if this is actually helping. One thing that I've tried is to put a little pillow on my desk. So there's a little pillow that I stole from the bed. I've just put it right here in front of me. And there's a little pillow in front of me, in front of the monitor here. You're giving me this look. You're just giving me this look like, you know what? I realize this is lowbrow, but I would expect that you just accept me for who I am. All my quirks and all my weird little solutions I come up with. I'm just trying to make the show better, Bobby. Why don't you just let me try?
Try harder.
You son of a bitch. I clearly have things I would be doing instead of this show.
Oh, like getting the shelves done and fixing it already? You've been having that. I've had the same background behind you for 6 months now. It's ridiculous.
I know.
You're dragging the quality of the show down.
Listen, Mister, let's start at 6:30 so we can do this thing with my dad and he can make fun of Batman and whatever else.
That's not my problem. That's not my fault.
It's not my fault.
You're late all the time, man. You're always late. I had Jules coming to me last week like, where's Sean? I'm ready to go.
What are you talking about? I was 5 minutes early.
First time ever.
Well, pretty good time.
Ever. And the only reason was because of Jules. Thank you, Jules.
And I was on time today, too.
No, you weren't. Because I sent you a link. I sent you a link like 15 minutes ago.
6:30, and then you're like, "Oh, I'm ready now, so let's do the podcast now." I'm the Nintendo Guru. That is all.
Are you done? Can we start the show?
This is fun.
Okay, thank you. You are a trip. Shut the game off.
Oh, I didn't expect this. I gotta clear the room.
So if anybody listens to Nerflix and Chill, Gary, I feel your pain wholeheartedly, bro, because I have to deal with this nonsense every week as well. So
you know what? I really just have to do a whole bunch of nonsense to just fake some sort of enthusiasm for wanting to be here.
Oh, is that what it is?
And if that's what it takes, then you know what? You should be happy that I do it. And I put myself.
I'm going to go to my favorite podcast now and go record with Toby.
That laugh you just did was like, I'm going to snap your neck.
All right.
I don't have a good feel about this show. I think we're going to kill each other.
Nah, it'll be good. It'll be good.
All right. It's good.
All right. Oh. All right. Here we go. All right. What is up, everybody, and welcome to episode 20 of If We Ran Nintendo. I am Bobby, the Nintendo Guru, joined by the great cyclist.